Hello, Josh, Brian. How are you guys?
Good, man.
Good.
I met you at ResponseCon not too long
Yep.
ago.
Yep. I remember that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Too long ago. Where do you live?
Southern Illinois.
Southern Illinois. That's right.
Mhm.
It's nice. I'm a little annoyed because my text message system that goes out didn't send any text messages today. Should have sent out
Ah,
to remind everybody. Usually one will go out this morning and one will go out about an hour ago. And I didn't get any text messages, and I'm like, you suckers. So I tried sending a manual one from the same program. It didn't work. I'm like, man. And then of course they charge you for every time you send out messages. But
sure.
see, you guys are all winners and you're showing up. This is awesome.
You bet.
David, how are you today? You're on mute. I don't know if you realize that. Karen, it's awesome to see you. I've talked to you a few times today, but it's nice to see you.
To see you too.
Travis, we were at my house earlier, so it's good hanging out with Travis earlier. Matt, where are you from?
Sorry, it's actually Nick. I'm just signed into one of my employees.
Oh, Nick. Yeah, Nick. I haven't seen you since our Vegas days. How are you, buddy?
I was in the last one, but I was actually looking after my son, which I'm going to be doing right now. So I'm just going to be listening in because
no worries.
Oh, good. Bring him too. We like kids.
Mm-hmm. Brian,
sure.
It was awesome meeting you at ResponseCon. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Nice. Very nice. Doing good. Travis, good to see you again.
Yeah, sorry I missed last week. I was thinking Pacific time.
Oh yeah, so you missed it?
Completely.
Well, if you go to the website, we put all the old ones up. So I think last week's is up, and you can.
Good deal.
It's good too.
There's some good information on there for sure. Yes, really good information. David was a rock star, brought some awesome value last week. Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Hey, Tiki.
Hi.
Your video's looking like you're beaming in
Matrix.
outer
A little
space.
glitchy there.
She's in the Matrix.
Yeah, it's like that.
I better stop video. Okay.
That's talented. I was like, how do you make it do that on purpose?
Like max headroom.
That's pretty cool.
That better?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, buddy. Hi. Your blurred background. I can't see his face though. So unblur your back. Oh, there you go. Hi, baby. Oh. It's your office manager is there with you. It's your office manager. Yeah. Nice. There you go. You're on mute, Donna, but what's his or her name?
There we go. I found the unmute button. This is Pretzel.
Hi, Pretzel.
Heading to Miami next week, so she's our mascot. Whoop. Yeah. There she is.
Oh, there she is. She's like, Mom, why are you doing that?
Sending all these last minute messages of people that we thought were going to be on.
Yeah. My auto texture didn't work today. I'm trying to get this guy Jonathan on. Raise your hand if you know Jonathan Maynard from the huge convention.
Oh, there you are, Travis. I was like, I gotta see. Travis is right behind my camera.
Travis. Yeah, Jonathan runs the huge convention and just an awesome businessman. And him and I were chatting yesterday about this show, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know if he's going to come on or not, but if he does or does not come on, he also helps implement traction into people's business." So as we go through this, and if you're interested in it and you're just like, man, I don't know if I have the time or the direction, Jonathan's just a wonderful man, and he said he's willing to help. So that's, I mean, man, if somebody's going to help, like, take that guy's advice. He owns multiple businesses that he doesn't run. He has people run them, and they're very successful. So learning from somebody like that, or if they're offering help, that's great, right? So yeah, let's get into it. Excited to have you guys here. A couple people first times. Oh, there's Jonathan.
Here's
right there.
Jonathan.
Let me let him in and I'll introduce you guys. Jonathan, your ears must be ringing. I was just talking about you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good things I trust.
Yeah. I'm like really bummed. My auto texter was not working today. Angela just sent me a message. She's like, "Did you send a text message?" I'm like, "You're right. None of them went out today." So a little less people than I expected, but still we got a good crowd here. I was just introducing you, Jonathan, to these people here. And I guess explain to yourself or explain to us how you help people implement traction in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. So that I found that by implementing it myself, I learned a absolute ton. And so I implemented it in both of my businesses, and now I help people. That's what I do as a regular form of business, to actually help people implement it in their own companies. Because the tools are great. You can self-implement, but I found that it is absolutely hard to do as an entrepreneur, because as most people know, you have 1,000 things going on. You're dealing with a bunch of stuff. And it's hard to do if you're not an expert in the tools and just kind of knowing what the tools are. So you can self-implement, not saying.
Is it just better for the accountability portion of it?
Yeah, accountability. And it's also because after doing it and then like learning about it, I learned a deeper understanding of the tools. So it's kind of, when you self-implement, I found this out. I had to learn the tools kind of, and then try to explain it to my team. And it was just harder to explain to the team because I was also learning it at the same time.
Good advice. Great information. So yeah, full disclosure, I read Traction about 2 years ago. And I implemented, I don't know, maybe 1% of it, which is none. Full disclosure, I completely failed. But Angela and I were, I don't know if we were in Denver or if we were in Vegas or where we came up with the idea about implementing Traction, and Angela's done it a ton, right? So yes. I'm like, Angela, you run with it. Let's dive in and let's go, right?
So we were talking about how great it is, and a lot of people don't know about it, and how it's beneficial to know about it and understand the principles of it at any stage of your business, at the beginning, and any size of your business. So I was all like, "Oh, sure, I can present." And then he told me about you today, Jonathan. And I was like, "Well, why am I presenting on EOS?" Like, they're professional implementers. So we will call on you and for all sorts of resources. But I absolutely, as we say EOS and talk about Traction, it is the entrepreneurial operating system. I think Dave sent out a few times. There's a little smaller book that is really meant for your employees if you implement it based on the larger book and concept of Traction. And I have had implemented it in my own business, and then helped several other businesses implement it and run it. And I will talk about at the end, as Jonathan said, especially in a larger business that is, over 10, 15, 20, it's so beneficial to have somebody help, an established business, have somebody help you implement this for so many reasons.
Cool. Well, let's pause right here. I guess raise your hand if you've read the book. 1,
and read it.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish. Yeah.
Okay.
Raise your hand.
We're going to go through the Cliff Notes.
Yes.
And what it really is. And then we're excited to kind of break these down. We had planned to break it down just maybe over the next couple weeks. And then I was like, each of these 6 things really are a lesson that we were going to go over at some point on their own. So I'm just going to go through the highlights, and then we'll open it up for discussion. And like I said, Jonathan's going to be a great resource on that. So 1, like I said, it is a valuable tool at any size, whether you are just beginning your business and knowing this is what the organizational structure of your business will look like and having that vision going forward, or whether you are kind of getting the people and knowing, hey, I want this. This is a great tool to grow my business, or whether you're at the point that I need this tool to scale my business. It's important for all of those. So different parts of traction and EOS. The first is defining your company's, really honing in on what your company's mission, vision, core values, and focus are. And like I said, today we're going to go super high level of all the tools and things that this system brings together. And then in following weeks, we will have workshops and workbooks like we've had in the weeks before, because these are all great workbooks on each of these things. So helping you more clearly define your company's mission, vision, core values, and focus. But that is the first step. If you don't know, if you haven't really clearly defined all of those things and have alignment in that and great communication among your team, you don't know how your processes or people or anything should align with that until you align with that first. So really well defining that first. Second is, because yeah, that gives you a lens, I guess, to create alignment from everything. Second is creating the targets. The first part of the targets, I like to define them as, and I might not be using all the official language of EOS, but the first targets being goals. What are your goals for the business? What are your long-term goals, 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 3-year goals? What are your goals in the next year? And then how do we break those down into quarterly goals, and how are we working towards them? But so often as business owners at different points, whether beginning in the growth phase, in the scale phase, we get consumed in, kind of lost in the weeds, and might work with our team and are like, yeah, we want 10% growth this year, or we want 100 more clients. Well, why is that? How does that line up? And how does that really line up from where we ultimately want to be? So being focused on all of those targets and how our long-term target lines up with all of the smaller targets. The second target looking at is well-defining your target market. And target market is thrown out a lot, that word, right? Is everyone like, who's your target market? Do we feel like that word's thrown out a lot? And not really clearly defined, right? I think of a lot in so many years in business and working with business when I'm like target market, and I could easily say, oh, my target market is between 30, a homeowner between 30 and 55 that has this much income. And we would just define target market as kind of some numbers. Would you guys agree? How many people think most of the time when you think your target market, it's just defined by numbers?
Oh, yeah.
And so this goes a little bit deeper into that, but this exercise, when we go to this topic, will take you really deeply into defining your avatar and what that looks like. And I love this part. So great. Our target market is, if we are doing residential homes and the woman is making the decision, and my target market is a woman 35 to 55, and we're dialing in their zip codes, but then we start to analyze, like, where does she shop at? What does she buy? Where are the places that she goes? What's the gym that she goes to? Really defining everything about that person, finding I'm just choosing that because I'm choosing myself in this category because it was the easiest to find, right? So it's like, hey, someone like me, then we pick people like that person that you can actually look at and see, this is your avatar. How do they behave? And how do we best market and sell to them? How does our message speak to them? And how many of you could agree that it is much easier to define a marketing message when you're have a picture in your mind of a person than a woman between 35 and 55?
Yeah.
Right? So really defining that target market, and then that when you have your focus and your goals, and we're really aligned with our target market, we're closing this funnel of being much more focused, right? 3 is people. And first, the right people. And we hear this a lot, right people, right seats. But first finding the right people and then putting them in the right seats. But this focuses a lot, and maybe I put more emphasis on this because we always give things and concepts a spin on things that we're passionate about. And I know Dave and I talk about this a lot, of first finding the right people. Dave, you had the 3 G's when you look at a person. Tell us that.
Yeah. So they were grateful, right? They showed gratitude.
I put you on the spot.
What were the other 2?
Growth.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
interested in growth.
Their growth. They have a growth mindset, and they have gratitude. What was the other one?
Goals.
Goals. Yes. Okay.
Dave taught me this last week. But
I did. I was like, man, and Jonathan, you probably heard this at the response con, or you too, Brian. Somebody from Jill's office, and they're like, if you're not hiring somebody whose growth mindset, sets goals, and has gratitude, they're the wrong person. And it was like a glaring light. I've got one of my managers in one of my cities, and he doesn't have any of those 3. And I'm like, no wonder we're having issues with this guy. So yes.
So those 3 things, those are not in the book. I got those from Dave. But those describe the right people, right? That you are bringing in people that have those 3 qualities, and that they align with your core values that you already stated above. That's why we do the things in this order. So first you find the right people. And you guys know this, when you find somebody and you're like, I want you on my team. I don't know where the heck we're going to put you on the bus, but I want you to be on the bus. So that's the most important. And then it's finding the right seat for them. And this system uses the questions: do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity for it? Whether you're reevaluating people that are already in the roles, or whether you're evaluating, can they go in the role? So we'll talk about that. The people could really be a 2-part thing. It's right people, and then right seat is kind of 2 different conversations. Next is scorecard. This is something a lot of us don't like to look at. I don't like to look at it a lot at different times in my business. Ooh, David has a scorecard.
I printed mine, and I'm ashamed of it. I got a 59. So,
and you're deciding what your scorecard looks like. I wrote nothing on my notes besides everything else in my notes has a ton of details, and scorecard, I wrote scorecard. Because I don't like to talk about this.
Jonathan's laughing.
But it is, anyway, every business has a different scorecard. You decide the numbers that you want. I remember when I was going through this and working with other implementers, one of the things that you decide on your scorecard, I don't know if this is, you know how sometimes you don't know if things are in the book or if somebody else that does traction taught you it. But if I were some of the concepts of scorecard is, if you were out of your business, if you decided to go to an island with no cell phone contact that you were communicating with your business for a month, what sheet would you need to see? What numbers, what scorecard would you need to see to to know if your business was doing okay each week or each month? But how many people kind of like to avoid the numbers sometimes? Like the scorecard. Not necessarily the numbers, like how much is in my bank account, but like the scorecard.
Well, because when you look at it, it could be work, right? It's extra work. It takes time and effort and energy. Like if you look at your scorecard and you're like, oh man, but just like Jonathan was talking about, if he's holding me accountable, man, I'm going to probably pay attention to that scorecard a little better and make sure I'm performing. But yeah, you're right. It's hard to self-report, right?
It's hard to the business can be going well. The bank account's going up. People are happy, and you can try and ignore things for a bit. But this is taking a look at those and always taking a look at those KPIs, all the numbers. Somebody else.
I don't like checking my mail if I know there's bills in the mail. I'm like, yeah, I won't go to the mailbox, but they're still there, right?
If you don't watch your scorecard, you can't operate your company proactively. You're always operating it reactively.
Yeah.
So someone else will teach that week. And then processes. So then depending on where you're at, the phase of your business, beginning, growth, scale, it's identifying all the processes that are in your business, streamlining those, well documenting those, and really figuring those out. And the people I didn't go through, that's another one. I love the organizational chart of traction. It's one of my favorite things of the org chart, of knowing that where people fit, and knowing as we start a business that no matter what industry you are in, whether you are in the accounting industry and you're running a CPA firm, or you have a window washing company, or you have a dance studio, where I was the beginning of my dance business, everybody's org chart looks the same. We all have a visionary. We all have somebody that we need to be the integrator and make things happen. And we all have seats of sales and marketing and people and finance and organization and all the seats. And as you were starting out in a business, and Dave and I have talked about that a lot, you are wearing all the hats, right? You are the person in the truck. You are running it all. You're doing it all. You're selling, you're doing it all. And how you replace yourself at each parts of the org chart depends on your strength zones, what you're passionate about, and might depend on your industry. But I think that's one thing that solopreneurs aren't taught as you start the business is, here is the chart you are building. Find the people for these seats. Or how are you going to elevate the people to those seats? So processes, I love processes, and how to document them and create great SOPs so that we're not constantly reinventing the wheel, and that I call it hit the bus, been hit by a bus scenario, that if anyone in your company got hit by a bus, including you.
I like the vacation scenario better. Hit by the bus is a little morbid, but whatever.
What did you say?
I said I like the vacation scenario better than
the vacation scenario.
Okay,
how about abducted by friendly aliens?
There we go.
friendly ones.
If someone on your team was abducted by friendly aliens and taken on an adventure, would your business skip a beat? Or are your processes so well documented that that would not happen? And then 6 is, it might have been more than that. I wrote quarterly rocks, but a system for putting this in place and moving it all forward, of quarterly meetings, quarterly rocks that are things that you're moving the business forward. And there's another thing besides rocks that we're working on.
Issues.
What? Issues. There we go.
Yeah.
And the thing in this concept that most businesses get wrong, I get wrong a lot of times, is we so emphasize teamwork that many times there's a project or an initiative, like a rock, a major thing, and 2 people in the company will say, oh, we got this together. We both want it. We're super excited about it. And this process emphasizes the accountability of one, that one person is in charge, because otherwise it diffuses responsibility and blame and all the things. Some people can support them and help them on the project, but one person is accountable for moving major initiatives forward. So that's my quick recap on what the heck is EOS.
I love it. Thanks, Angela. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, where do we start? Everybody have their company's mission and vision and core values and focus. Does everybody, have that nailed in or dialed down? So I'm a little bit torn. I have 2 businesses, as most of you guys know. And I feel like in my window cleaning business, my vision and my mission is very clear. And I feel like for Collaborate Pros, it is very clear. Core values, I feel like, is pretty darn clear. I've always said, people before money in all things. That's, I guess, maybe my core value, but maybe I could go a little deeper on that, right? Anybody else have any thoughts on companies, mission, values, cores, and focus?
What's the difference between the mission statement and your core focus?
A mission is going to be the same as like a core focus. So you have your
Okay.
mission, your vision, and then your core values.
Okay.
So your core values are the things that your people should embody. Your mission is why you're doing what you're doing. Your vision is what you're going towards.
Gotcha. Okay. For myself, I started reading Traction 2 years ago when it was recommended by a friend, and got to the part not very far into it where it started asking those questions about core values and mission statement. And I was a lot smaller. The company was a lot smaller then, and I didn't really have a clear scope of what those things were to me. And this time around, it's becoming a lot more clear. And so I'm only about a third of the way trying to get through the book at this point, but I'm still a lot more excited about it this round because I feel like I do have some clarity on what those things are. So
Also feel like when you're smaller in business than when you're larger in business, like I was just informed today that somebody in our window cleaning company, was sending threatening text messages to my general manager about hiring an attorney for, a possible work comp claim. Like that guy doesn't have any of the values that our company has. Like that guy should have never gotten hired. How did he slip through the cracks? So when you're smaller and if I were doing the interviewing, I'd probably would have picked up on that. I would have seen it. I'd have been working right next to him and be like, wow, something's wrong about this guy, So as you get bigger, it's so easy to lose the focus. That's for sure.
So we will, I've done a great workbook on this. So when you're saying, Josh, it's hard to figure out in the beginning, you're like, what? Is this for real? I don't know what my mission, vision, core values are. And I think at different times in our business, just like Dave said, with different businesses, I don't know if I have this aligned. And it isn't easy to write out. I would say, and Jonathan, you probably agree, like in implementation, people that self-implement way too easily skip over this. Or just like write it down. They like spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes and they think they know what they're. Whereas this should be a week-long, multi-week exercise. I mean, this is a big deal. This defines everything else in your business. So we will have a workbook on this. And I just said, Dave, next week was supposed to be a part of Traction. So it's going to be this, because I think, and Jonathan, I'd love for you to echo in after this, that this is the most important part, and everything else, you build the building blocks around this, but this is such a personal thing that you have to really be all bought into.
Yeah, absolutely. And it isn't a like you said, a 30-minute or a 10-minute thing that you write down because you Google, hey, what are core values for a business, or these days chat GPT to write it for you. But it's not personal. And even if all the time I run into companies, it's like, okay, do you have your mission, vision, core values? Yes, I do. Okay, great. Let's walk in. I'm going to ask your employees what they are. And what? Yeah, because if you really know it and it's solid and it's throughout the company like you say it is, then your employees are going to know your core values.
And so are your clients.
And they're just like, It's like, yeah, okay, let's work on this. Let's define this. Let's make it better.
Awesome. I love it, Jonathan.
But don't let yourself get stagnant and not do it because you're scared to do it. Start with something and keep building on it and keep working on it, but start having something.
Yeah. David, that's great advice. Once you go through this exercise once, it's great to revisit once a year at least. So.
We just completely redid ours, and I just got it back from my designers so we can have it blown up and put on the walls.
Nice.
I can share it if you want.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, it's great, David. And what I did is I just had mine blown up into poster size, and then I framed those posters all around the office.
Nice. Nice.
And I got a team picture. My designer put a picture of a few of the guys on there. So
Oh, that's a good idea too. That could go right up in there.
yeah,
I like that.
I'm gonna snap a picture of that if you don't mind.
Help
Yeah, that's
yourself.
great, David. Thanks for
I'll try to
sharing.
get it to where it's all
Yeah,
on the
that is
screen.
that's really good.
You can do that minus sign up on top and
Zoom out.
a little
Yeah.
smaller. No, in the middle, top. There you go. There you
Cool.
Just don't want to make it so small you can't read it.
I just
Oh,
like I mean the content's going to be our own, I guess, right? But I do like how you just kind of have how it's all laid out there, and I like the idea of posting it around the office and the shop and everything. That's cool.
Yeah. We can send some different ones. This one's awesome. A lot of people have them in like different shapes, like with their logo, like the core values.
Cool.
And we have a more in-depth meeting every Monday, and so we're going to start covering one of these every week in it, just to make sure it's embedded in their brains, you know.
Mm-hmm.
very nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
David, if you have daily stand-ups, that's literally we go and we talk about one of our, because we have 4 core values, we talk about one of the 4, and then we talk about how somebody has demonstrated that. So it's another technician or supervisor or salesperson that goes, oh yeah, Mark, he really was demonstrating that our professionalism. So, and he did this, this, and this. So we get the team talking about it. Everybody's talking about it, and they get rewarded for embodying those core values as well.
Nice.
I like that, Jonathan. That's really cool because then it's top of mind all the time, right?
Yeah, it's got to be.
I just started several weeks ago. I don't know if I'm doing it right or not, but started out kind of slow, like introduced our mission statement, talked about that, and then one core value, and then like every few days when we met again would just kind of reintroduce the next core value and talk about what they meant. And I've been just calling people out and offering prizes kind of in these beginning stages for, who's got the core values, who's got our mission statement, who can read it off to me. And I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on how you start that process of integrating all of those things.
You just start talking about it and don't ever shut up about it.
Yeah.
It's we've been doing it for 4 years solid, every day.
So in what ways, I guess, I know you mentioned like, awarding or rewarding team players for exhibiting certain core values. What other ways do you talk about it?
Just in our daily stand-ups, and it's on our tracker. So we have people. We also have a Slack channel, so people call each other out, throughout the day, with the core values, because the more that people do that, the more people talk about it. That becomes the culture. And so our admin will go in there and randomly pick somebody that nominated somebody, and each of them get like a $10 gift card for our local gas station. So she'll pick out about 4 people total a week, and just, hey, here's the thing, and she puts it right in Slack, and so everybody sees it. So people are always calling each other out on those things.
Yeah,
And they're calling them out for for exhibiting like one certain core value, or just like the whole gambit, or what's? I'm just curious what you're.
Yeah, it's one particular core value. So, and it has to be tied to an actual action, not like, he was exhibiting purposeful today. We have 4 Ps because it's the only way I can remember things. And you just can't say, oh, he was being purposeful today. No, you have to say, hey, I noticed him proactively, filling bleach tanks on trucks that weren't his because, he had some extra time, and, yada, yada, yada. So he's being very purposeful.
nice.
Yeah, it's funny that you have the 4 Ps. For us, our company, we have what we call like the 4 Cs, And what I say is like the 4Cs help foresee a great future here at Wipe Clean.
Ooh.
Oh,
As we like train guys, like when I'm interviewing people, I'm like, talk about the 4Cs and like say that to them. Everybody kind of likes that. But yeah, it's nice to have them with the same letter. It makes
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, Nick. Yeah. What are your 4Cs?
I love that.
clean. We're a cleaning company. We got to be clean. Everything's got to be clean, consistent, courteous, and good communicators. So clean, consistent, courteous, 4Cs away clean. Yeah. And we also like say that at the beginning of each meeting. Like we have like a little intro. We kind of like spiel about it, and then we'll ask one of the guys like, "Hey, what does it mean to be clean here at Wipe Clean?" Then they'll be like, clean truck, clean equipment. We got rags that are clean, ladders, equipment's clean when we're going up to the house, clean script, know what you're saying, stuff like that.
That is cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good creativity award of, not just the alliteration, but like 4C.
Yeah, well, I spent a lot of time on it. It was like Forge and Fire. We one day, I think it was like 2018 was when we made them, and it was since that point it's made a huge difference. So definitely recommend having something that you can kind of just talk about on a consistent basis and boil everything down to too. When somebody's like not doing something good, you can be like, oh, they weren't being consistent, or they weren't being courteous of the other team members. Like this guy just went home at 1:00 when we got this huge job that this guy's not going to finish today and the customer needs it done or whatever. It's like kind of can help gauge when somebody's being bad or not being bad, but like just not aligned with the values. So
the other employees, the big red light will go off real fast when somebody's not following your 4Cs. It'll go off real fast, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on a couple of other items.
I have one more thing
sure.
on mission vision, because we talked a ton about core values and not necessarily mission vision, which is important too, and all of those. And I think that your mission and vision statement are harder to construct. Like I said, we're going to get you a workbook on that. My workbook is designed a lot around a big mentor and friend of mine, Ron Carson, who owns Carson Group. And they have I'll post it. They have as a free resource on their website, Blueprinting Guide. And it's a whole book just on defining your mission, vision, and core values and those goals. But it walks you through a lot of exercises. Just when you see our workbook next week and it has a lot of similarities, I did get full permission to use it. But if you want a resource in advance of kind of thinking about your mission, as we talked about, that it's not a one thing, and this would be a great preparation to prepare you for next week.
Wow, that's really exciting. Yeah. That's really cool. So we're going to put that up on our resource page?
Yes.
Okay. collaboratepros.com/live.
I'll put it like maybe right now in the link too.
Oh, okay. Good.
I was trying to find the link and then I made noise.
Cool. Yeah, we're winging this. We're kind of figuring it out as we go. That's awesome. Anybody else have anything else to say on mission and vision? Yeah, no? All right. Targets. Who here does like a 10-year target? I know, like, I'm not sure. Jonathan, you're awesome. I think like in my head, I think, well, 10 years. Because if I look back 10 years ago to where I'm at now, there's no way I could have envisioned everything that's happened in 10 years. So I feel like when I think 10 years, I think it's like La La Land a little bit. Like it gets all foggy and it's just like a dream. What are your suggestions, Jonathan, of getting really focused for a 10-year plan?
Is really just looking at your year-over-year growth. You want to, especially in your business, when you look at your growth pattern, when you're young, it's a lot steeper pitch. And then as you get kind of older, as your company gets older, it flattens out more, just because you can't grow at 200% a year when you're doing $5 million. It just doesn't work. So unless through acquisition, you could do it that way. But you just really reverse engineer all your numbers, and you go, okay, that's what I want to do. And then you have to also think, okay, do I want to acquire other companies, or what are things that I want to do? What are some just crazy ideas that I have? And then you could throw that into your 10-year plan as well.
So what's the difference of like your 5-year versus your 10?
You're all you're doing is you're reversing everything. So you have all your crazy stuff 10 years out, like this is just the moon. And then you're going to go 5 years. Okay, what do I have to do in 5 years to accomplish what I want to do in 10 years? And then you do the down to 1 year. Actually, it's 10, 3, 1. And then you do it down to 1 year, and then you break that 1 year into quarterly goals. So you're essentially just cutting everything into chunks in order to get to where you want to go.
That makes sense.
Because they all have to be aligned. So if your 10-year goal is to, build a Ferrari factory, and then at 5-year goal, you're buying Ford parts, those don't align. So you want to make sure your trajectory is everything's lining up to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Is anybody here doing their 10-year or written down a long-term plan? Any thoughts on that?
I couldn't bring myself to fantasize to 10 years. I got to 5 is about the, kind of like you said earlier, 10 was kind of hard for me to even.
Yeah.
10's out there
to think of. Yeah.
It is.
I only did, like, when I first started my company, I did a 10-year plan. And then after like a few years of not hitting what I was planning to do in a few years, I was like, all right, I'm sticking to 1 or 2 year goals so I don't disappoint myself too much. So yeah, lately I've just been sticking to like 1 to 2 year.
Yeah. I've said this a lot of times. Like, I remember in my business, like, everybody thinks $1 million is like a magical number. And when I hit $1 million, I had no clue I hit it. You know what I mean? And then when I hit the next $1 million, I honestly had no clue I hit that one either. But the first $1 million took me years and years to get to. The second $1 million was only 2 years after the first. So it took me like, I don't know, 15 years to hit $1 million. And then my next $1 million was 2 years. I'm like, man, I did that in the last 2 years. What took me so long those first 15 years? Like, I didn't have the experience, right? So man, things change. Like, they change dramatically. So yeah, I don't know. It's, yeah.
So it's in this exercise too. I used to have a terrible time. I couldn't create a picture of 10 years, no matter how many businesses, how successful, whatever. Like, I just, like you guys, I'm like, I have no idea what 10 years is. I want to double next year. But this does take you through that. And when I went through the workshop, I mean, it takes you through exercises and instructions, but instead of thinking like you were saying, Dave, of like, well, 2 million, we all want $1 million, and the second $1 million came easier. Instead of maybe thinking about it in the beginning in terms of business, think about your life. So at the top of this exercise, it's like, what is my age? What is my age in 10 years? What is my partner's age? If you have kids, what are my kids' age? Now, what do I want my life to look like? What is the goal I want my life to look like? So this is an old version of this, and it happened to be sitting on the floor. So that's what made me think of it. Everything happens for a reason. But it was 10 years. It's like, take my kids on 3 fantasy trips a year. That was a lot. Anyway, but like, how much money would I have to take my kids that will be 30? Why was I taking them on fantasy trips? I don't know. But, like, how much money would that take then? If that's the picture I could see of taking my kids to Europe and Hawaii and to Bali, if that's the vision I could see, then how much money would that take? And that was an easier way for me to see if this is what I wanted my life to look like, if that makes sense. Then was I willing to work hard enough to make that happen?
Well, not just the money, you'd have to have the time and the freedom to do it too, right?
Yep. Yeah. Good point. But that's a little more motivating, right? Sometimes we're like $10 million business. We're like, okay,
Yeah, more money, more problems, right? More
Yeah.
money, more people, more problems. Jonathan's like, yeah.
I can't believe I wrote that as my goal. My kids are like, will you take us to sushi when this is done? I'm like, no.
Yeah, and are your kids still going to want to hang out with you in 10 years? So you have to have a good relationship
Evidently,
with your kids,
in
right?
15 minutes, they want me to buy them sushi. So,
Oh, all right. You were talking about people. Well, so I live in Phoenix, and I think today or yesterday the Phoenix Suns were sold, and I heard a bit of the news conference or the press conference on the radio, and the new owner, like I guess he owns the largest mortgage company in America, and he said he started with 12 employees, and he goes, now I have 7,000 teammates. He goes, I thought of them as employees when I started. He goes, it's always people. People are always first. He goes, the only reason I can ever accomplish anything is because I have the best people. And Manny said that he just absolutely nailed that, because there's no way you're going to accomplish anything remotely amazing or awesome if you don't collaborate with the right people, right, guys? Get it, want it, and have capacity to do it, right? So the people exercise also, is that where you're having the right people sitting in the right part of the bus, Angela? Right. Just what I was talking about. One of my supervisors, clearly not the right guy. I'm going to have some meetings and figure that out. But that's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah. The cool tool that they have is called a people analyzer tool. And essentially at your quarterly meeting, you're going to write down everybody's name, and they get a plus or a minus, and then you grade them on how they exemplify the core values. And essentially that's, you have to make cuts at that point, because you realize after taking some scrutiny to everybody, you realize probably there's a couple people in your organization that are not holding up the core values, and that tells the rest of the team that you really don't put importance on your core values if you're willing to compromise just to have employees.
Yep, that's hard to do. It's hard to do, but very necessary for sure. I don't know if you guys are all the same, but I know when, like, there's a guy or a person, I shouldn't say a guy, anybody in the company that's just a drag on the company, man. This is the dude that just brings grief and just frustrations, and finally you let him go, or you fire him, or he quits, whatever happens, and everybody's like, oh, finally, man. God, that guy sucked. Like, what? And then you look at yourself like, man, why did I wait so long? Like, and then you kind of look around like, why didn't you all tell me this guy was such an idiot? So if you're not, checking yourself all the time, man, you can go down the deep end pretty fast, right?
Yeah. And don't count on the scuttlebutt. Real quick story with one of our companies. It's a operation, like a manufacturing facility in Tennessee, and we were going to have to let go of the guy that was the plant manager, because he just was not fitting in with the core values and how we kind of wanted to see things going. And we were concerned because he would always tell us how much everybody loved him, and people, when he was around, oh, he's great, blah, blah, blah. And so we were a little nervous. So we got out on the factory floor and announced, hey, we let, so-and-so go. And it got a standing ovation. And we were so worried, and turns out they were a drag, and we did not know it because we did not pay that close of attention until it got to a head, and it's like, oh, we could have saved ourselves a lot of heartache here.
Yeah. Or when I was like even younger in business, I was so naive. I actually thought most people weren't on drugs. I had no clue. I had no idea. I know, right? Jonathan's laughing. Like, this was 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I need to start drug testing. And man, I lost almost my whole crew. I was like, that guy's on drug. Like, I just think people are normal. And man, when I did that, man, my company shot up like crazy. But golly, just sometimes you're just oblivious, and you really need to lean on other people or these systems of this EOS, right?
Yeah.
I've got a question. I'm curious what you guys think about using that people analyzer more often than once a quarter.
I mean, we do the exercise once a quarter, but we really use it every day because
Right.
because the culture that we have of calling out the core values. So,
Okay.
and then like I think Dave said earlier, when somebody's not exemplifying a core value, everybody else sees it and it's a glaring light. And they're just like, oh.
So you'll get a certain group of people who are always called out for displaying it, and you'll notice who's not in that group, right? Like, oh, George, man, we never hear George's name. What's George doing? I guess that makes sense. There you go. Nobody needs to point him out. He just makes it obvious. Huh? That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a great question. So processes. How many people have processes in their business? That's a fun one, right? Yeah, raising hands. Nice, love it. Yeah. I mean, you're really limiting yourself to growth in any way, shape, or form if you don't have any sort of processes.
That's what solves the problem if you're getting hit by the bus or going on vacation.
Yep. Yep.
And last week I was in Arizona because my mother-in-law was having surgery, so my wife and I were out there. My general manager got COVID and was out for the week. My office manager, his father died. She was out.
Oh, wow.
And it was the best sales week we ever had. Even in the summertime, we had the best sales week ever. And it's because you had the right people in the right spots, and they could go to the book and say, our process book is about that thick. It's hundreds of pages. And, you know, anybody can do anybody's job just by reading it if they had to, and didn't skip a beat.
Wow, that's impressive. Nice work. You were here in Arizona, huh?
I was outside of Tucson.
All right, nice.
And Dave, that's a compliment to your team, because I bet they felt like, hey, we have to step up. And they probably worked extra hard to make sure that nothing fell through the cracks.
They take a lot of pride in that too. I know, like, when we come to our team and it's like, you know, hey, I'm going to be out of town, or they're like, I got this, we got this, just leave us alone, we're good. So they take a lot of pride in that too. And then obviously you show appreciation and gratitude towards them, but yeah, they'll definitely take some pride in that. I know, I mean, just the way I operate, I want to go above and beyond, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are good people. Just got to find them, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Processes, issues. Issues are no fun to talk about, right? Anybody want to get off the call right now and not discuss issues?
Well, yeah, it's funny because that's the biggest chunk in your level 10 weekly meeting.
Yeah.
Is the IDS section, because these are the things that are keeping you from, you know, knocking your rocks out of the way. So it's a big chunk, and everybody's got them. You just got to sort them out.
Yeah, and I haven't read the issue section in Traction yet, but I used to meet with I don't know if anybody was on the call a few weeks ago with my accountant, Ken, but we used to meet weekly, and we would go over all the issues within my business and which ones I'm going to solve by next week. So when I come meet with them a week later, if I didn't solve the issue, now I look like I'm not pulling my weight. But that's, my company had the most growth, hands down, when we met weekly and tackled every single issue we were having within our company. Man, did the company turn around, and it turned around fast. So does anybody else go over issues weekly or quarterly, or is it just when they come up? Travis, you and I go over issues every week, right? Until last month when I've been out of town for a whole month, but even Travis and I, we meet up every Wednesday for 4 hours.
Yep.
Karen, we get on a call once a week. We were supposed to today, but I canceled it, but we'll do it on Friday. But yeah, if you're not talking with your team, how are you going to know what the issues are and what the problems are, right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, Angela, you want to give us any instruction or anything for next week?
So we're going to post it Where are we posting it? We'll post it in the Facebook group because we'd like you guys to be more active in that. So if you're not already in Collaborate Live Facebook group, we'll post it in there. We're working on, so thank you, our sequence of communication of sending up the follow-up video to this. If you want to share it with anyone, an email video follow-up with instructions and a workbook. And then where else do you say we post it? On the live page?
Yep. Yeah, we'll put it on there.
So we'll put blueprinting there for now.
Okay.
The Carson group one. And then next week we'll have a more customized one on core values that we can work on. But be thinking about, I hope this fostered some, thoughts of thinking about those of core values and mission and vision statement over the next week. You can be thinking about all the things and the goals and what is your 10-year vision. That will be next week's. And Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us and all your wisdom in implementing as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and guys, if you know anybody or any other business owners you want to invite to this, anybody's welcome to come next week. We'll dive into it, and
yeah,
man, I'm
have
excited.
them watch the replay if they can, because I think it kind of goes through and explains where we're at, and then it's a great free resource for people to really dial down on that next week.
Cool,
Awesome.
cool. All right, guys, thanks a lot for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful week. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Thank
Right.
you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you so
All
much.
right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Sorry, our video wasn't working well.
Oh,
Bye.
you guys look like you're from a movie. We like it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when the the Matrix. Totally awesome. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Yep.